Hello, welcome to CLSP Politics. Sean Briscoe speaking. Been getting a lot of questions. How many seats will the Democrats win in 2026? And that's a big old crystal ball kind of situation. And there's a lot of campaigning between now and November 2026. It's 11 months. And this could easily be some of the more dynamic 11 months that we've seen in a very, very long time. So I think kind of the best way to cut through the noise that is and it already is and will become the 2026 cycle. This on the filing deadline for elections in the United States, the 8th of December. I thought this would be a good way just to show how math can help us cut through the nonsense and give us just an idea of what we might be looking at, right? So when we're putting together an equation is to figure out how and what's actually going to happen, we have to look at what data do we have to ride on, right? Well, we all know what the 2024 presidential cycle looked like. And I was in Wisconsin, and one thing we noticed, and I went and I looked across the US and I saw this across in other states as well. We noticed that they had, of course, the Republicans won the presidential seat, right? Then there was a gap in performance. And then, so like in Wisconsin, for example, Trump won Wisconsin by like half a point, but the Democrat won the US Senate seat, which is also statewide. We gained seats in a lot of towns as far as like city council, things of that nature goes. There just wasn't any down ticket effect really in Wisconsin. We didn't see that the Senate seat didn't flip. In fact, a lot of Senate seats didn't flip, if you guys remember. And when you go and you look at the math, you'll see, well, there's like 3% of the GOP electorate that walks in, votes Trump, and walks out. And that fully fits with his base, right? They're not issue candidates, they're ideologue candidates. They vote for the person, not the party. So we got to take that into consideration. We got to make sure we keep that 3% locked in, so that way we know that those guys, for one, I mean, they're told by Trump that all politicians are liars and that, you can't trust any of them. So why would you expect them to vote if he's not on the ticket? So then we have all the special elections. So I thought we could look at those because it's some really hard math in these, like the Florida first, that was a 17-point swing for Democrats. The Florida 6th with a 19-point swing for Democrats. The Virginia 11th was a 16-point swing for Democrats. The Arizona 7th was a 12-point swing for Democrats. The Virginia governor, the one we just watched, was lots of fun, 10-point swing. New Jersey governor was an 8-point swing. And the Tennessee 7th congressional district was a 13-point swing. Yeah, the Democrats didn't win it, but man, we didn't lose it by double digits. So all that turns into some hard math that we can look at. But first, before we go any further and look at the hard math, like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm on YouTube, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. Although Instagram isn't letting me upload videos right now, I'm sure they'll figure that out. But I'm all over YouTube. I'm all over Substack and Blue Sky. So check it out. Check me out if you like me on any of those platforms. If you want to support the work I do on this channel, you can. I have a PayPal account attached to my YouTube. It's right there on my front page, and you can become a paid member of my Substack. So that's how you can support this channel. Awesome. Okay. So what do we know with all of that data that we've collected, right? Or that was collected via those elections since 2024 November? Well, we know special elections had an average swing of 13.5 points. and that's Republican and Democratic districts, right? We know that Trump is worth 3% on the generic GOP poll. Important. And he isn't and is on the ballot today. And I want to talk about what that kind of means. So when Trump's not on the ballot, there's that 3% that don't vote. And when he is on, and which is the case this cycle, he's not on the ballot in 2026. Thank God. So that 3%'s not showing up. And there's an argument and some polling to be made that 3%'s actually lower than it would be anyway. The soybean farmers in Texas and Arkansas might probably not vote the way they did. Anyone who's watching their hospital close down probably won't vote the way they did. And that's actually what I mean by he is and isn't on the ballot. So all of his policies are on the ballot. So the hospitals shutting down in Tennessee and with Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia, those rural hospitals all shutting down. I did a whole show on the rural hospital thing. You can go check it out. It's under my policy playlist. Well, I talked about 70 plus rural hospitals shutting down across the country, right? Extending people's drives from 30 minutes to an hour. And then what I pointed out was those hospitals they're driving to may not have the service they need. And then they'll have to go somewhere else. Now they're an hour and a half, 2 hours away. So the hospital thing's huge. And it hits them in the base. It hits them in a rural base, and it hits them with older voters. And those are the two things that got him elected, right? And a few different groups not really showing up. Well, I think they're going to show up now. So he's got, plus then his tariffs, which affects agriculture directly. And I did a whole show on that. You can go check that out too. That's going to have a huge effect in rural America, right where the Republicans cannot afford to be hit. So that's what I mean when he is and isn't on the ballot. He isn't on the ballot to drive up the vote. His policies are on the ballot to push the vote down for Republicans and push the vote up for Democrats. So what is the impact to me on 2026 ticket? Now, and how does this translate this swing into congressional seats, right? Because that's what we want to know. Who's going to control Congress? So I'm using the 2024 as my baseline. Now, I'm sure I've got some math nerds on here going, well, you can't compare 2024 to 2026, especially when you're looking at total voter turnout. Da, 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 da. I'm like, I understand that. But I think that just like we've seen in these other elections, the governor's races, and like when I did that Supreme Court race in Wisconsin, I think we're going to see unusually high turnout, presidential level turnout in this midterm. And not preparing for that is a huge, huge mistake, in my opinion, because every race we've seen so far has had ridiculous turnout. Like, for example, in that Wisconsin seat, that Supreme Court race in April, we'd been working it for the last couple months. And normally, the way this stuff works out is you sit down, you order a beer, polls are closed at 7:30 or whatever. Let's just say you get to the watch party by about just before 8 o'clock. And that's when the first real numbers start coming in, like 7:38, 8:30. That's when you'll see the early vote come in first, and they'll add that up and post that. And then we get to watch for the rest of the next 3 or 4 hours. You get to watch what's going to come through the through the elections. And you sit there with your beer, take a couple sips, and it's 8 o'clock. Well, I'm sitting there. We just literally sat down with our first beer, and said hi to a bunch of people. at the event that we'd run into throughout the campaign, and they were really excited we'd showed up to their watch party, which we were happy to. I mean, you know, we knocked on over 20,000 doors for that cycle, so we were kind of invested spiritually, that is. Well, I was like, Ricky, let's get our beer, let's sit down, let's watch this poll, let's watch the votes come in. 8:30 they call the race. I didn't even finish my first beer. 8:30 they had called the race. And we've been told, I've been told by the political director of SEIU, I've been told by the county chair, everyone has told us, listen, get comfortable. They don't call this thing till 11:30 to 12:30, somewhere in that spot. They'll call the race. They called that stuff 4 hours early. And that's because the voter turnout was so high and it was so Democrat that they were like, they're seeing governor level numbers. And the vote was just blue. And that was statewide in Wisconsin. So my feeling is this 2026 is a makeup vote for those that voted for Trump thinking things would be different, and an energized vote by Democrats, right? So when we add a 13.5% increase, right, for the swing, minus the 3% because of those GOP guys that aren't going to vote anything but Trump, and there's no Trump to vote for. Basically, I think the Republicans will be somewhere between 72 and 74 million state. And this is nationwide, and I would love to see the Democrats break 80 million. And it's a huge ask. It's not a number we've ever seen in an off cycle, but not being prepared for this cycle is the biggest mistake I think we can make. I think if the Democrats can get to 80 as a nationwide, it'll be a very, very good night for Democrats. And that's a heavy lift. But I see a lot of people out there already knocking on doors. I see a lot of policies blowing up in the face of Trump. I see him starting wars that probably are illegal. No one's even paid for that premium yet. And after about 11 months of paying for that premium for their health care, and the 10, 20 million people that are just going to stop having insurance, I have a feeling that 80 million probably isn't a heavy lift after all, when we see the incredible destruction his policies are going to have. It's still a heavy lift. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think it's as heavy as we think. And I think there's a whole generation. The millennials are the largest voting generation in our country's history, bigger than the boomers. If they show up, this is them showing up. Real quick, if you haven't already, like and subscribe. I'm in all these places. Check me out. So, our new national total, 152 million. That's a lot of voters. Right? When we break it down, the shares of Democrat versus Republican, that basically means it's a 52 nationwide, 52.6% for the Democrats and 47.39% for the Republicans. And so the original was the flip, right? So this would be a flip of what happened in 2024, right? So that's a 5%, 5.42% difference. Now, in the net two-party swing, that's why I always tell people don't vote third party. This math is the argument for not voting third party. So, to give some reference, We had a 5% swing in 2006. Now, to remind all of you, 06 was the cycle when everyone was officially over the Gulf War that Trump, oh God, sorry, Bush. Wow, can't believe I'm saying that. That Bush started, right? 06 was the cycle that kind of gave birth to the Obama 08 movement, right? Most of my friends that I met that I was in 08 with, I met in 06. Give you an idea. That was 5 points. 2018, the cycle after the last Trump administration won, was 8 points. See what I'm saying? I'm looking for 5 and change here. And 2010 was a GOP wave. That was the Tea Party wave at 7. So I'm looking for something less than the Tea Party wave, but more than the 06 anti-Bush wave. This doesn't seem unreasonable. So let's translate that swing into seats, right? How many, because that's the big question. How many seats are we going to win, right? We've gone through the math now. Let's look at what the seats look like. All right. So political scientists estimate that each seat, you break each seats into each percentage point, right? So a conservative response would be for every 1 percentage point, 4 seats. Kind of a central middle of the road would be 7 points for every 7 seats for every 1 point. And very optimistic would be 12 seats for every 1 point. And that's the only way that one happens is if you've got a lot of GOP that super don't vote. Like that 3% I predicted is too high. And it's more than that. It's 4, 5, 6%. That's how you get that optimistic responsiveness. So at 1 point you get 12 seats. I'm definitely not saying that's happening. So let's look at the conservative estimate. 5.42 times 4 is 21.7. So we'll call it 22 seats. The middle of the road, it's 38 seats. Keep in mind the margin in the House is like, I think 3 seats by now. I don't know. Who knows what it'll be by the time the actual elections happen. Republicans are dropping like flies. So, and the Merry Christmas, best November I've ever seen would be 65 seats. So like our worst case scenario is a clear majority. Comfortable, like it. People can have the flu, not show up for votes. We can still vote anything we really need to get through. The House, no problem. Well, the middle of the ground here is 38 seats. That's that we reached 253 seats that way. It's a very comfortable majority. And then, of course, Christmas to us all, beams of sunshine come down upon us and manna from heaven, 65 seats. A 280 seat majority. No one's seen that in forever. And then, so when we calculate in for gerrymandering, which has to be done now, right? Because of, all the gerrymandering. Thank you, Texas. Thank you, Indiana. Thank you, everywhere else. Or actually, there's plenty. Like Texas was gerrymandered before the gerrymandering. We're just gerrymandered plus now. So conservative estimate, we take 4 seats. We barely take the House back. Middle of the road, we take the House back. We've got 15 plus seats to wiggle room. Merry Christmas, manna from heaven, 47 seats I'll take it. They're giving it. I'll take it. That's the best case scenario. My guess, if you're asking my number, I truly do think that we're about 20 seats. I think we're going to take 20 seats. And I've actually got them ID'd. That'll be for a different video. But I do actually have the 20 seats, I think, are going to flip for the Democrats. I just spent 45 videos talking about every state except for a couple that has some at-large congressional seats, and I found a surprise there. Arkansas. You didn't think I was looking? I saw you. I found you. Arkansas is one of those 20. That at-large congressional seat in Arkansas, I think, is in play. That's a teaser. But yeah, no, I've identified 20 seats I think are going to flip this cycle, and I have separate math from this. This is because all politics is local. You got to look at the local side, and yeah, so there are 20 seats. Well, thanks for watching. Hope everyone learned some fun math and campaigning and predictive analysis for congressional districts. Now, is my math perfect? Well, it's mathematically correct. Are my assumptions perfect? Who knows? We'll find out. I'll be doing a few of these over the next 11 months. This is my first one. I'll change my math as the evidence changes. We still have other rando special elections that are going to happen between now and November 2026, I'm sure. As congressional candidates quit, Marjorie Taylor Greene's one, right? There'll be more. There'll be a lot more. So, and also, entropy. People die. That's what happens. So we have one of the oldest Congresses and Senates in the history of our country. So it's inevitable. So there will be special elections held. And we'll see how it all plays out. Well, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. You can catch me in all these places. If you want to help support the work that I do on this channel, you can donate on my PayPal at CLSB Politics, or you can go to my Substack and become a paid member of my and with a monthly contribution. All right. Well, hope everyone enjoyed this video. I'm putting this out on the deadline for the 2026 elections filing on December 8th. It's very exciting. So I'll talk to you guys later.